Hi, Steve Adubato coming to you from NJIT, the New Jersey Institute of Technology, the Jim Wise Theater. This is Newark at a Crossroads. We're honored to have Mr. Donald Katz, founder and CEO of Audible.com, came to Newark in 2007 because?
Came to Newark in part because we wanted to be closer to New York City. And we're right next to the Broad Street station. We have a huge number of people who come in every day, including actors. We're the largest employer of actors in the New York City area. So that was one reason.
By the way, before I go any further, I was remiss. For those who don't know Audible, it is?
Audible's the audio download service that millions of people use while they're driving to work all around the world, and you can listen to audiobooks from Audible. Download them to your iPhone, and that's the business. It now is quite global, quite big. It's a subsidiary of Amazon.com. And,
oh, those guys?
Yeah, and been growing like a weed. So,
okay, so you come to Newark 2007. By the way, when you said you were coming to Newark, Don, did everyone say, great move?
Well, the people who love Newark did. I happened to be at a conference and Ray Chambers was there, and I just mentioned that we're
the philanthropist
to Newark. Ray Chambers,
big
a great
cheerleader of Newark,
and Newark born, and so people were. We got more press about coming to Newark, and the reality is that we didn't say it at the time, but it was really about a social mission. We weren't paid. There was no incentives or subsidies. We moved in. In fact, there's a cost because we have a payroll tax in town. And we did it partially because it seemed to me that as a company that had positively disrupted the character of media and changed kind of a sleepy audiobook business in the publishing world into this high growth service environment, why not take on urban transformation and urban renaissance and be part of a very happy story in Newark, which is a great American city on a comeback?
You know, when I visit you at Audible and I'm looking around and seeing these disproportionately younger folks, I'm thinking, wow, if it were not for Katz bringing these people here, they wouldn't be in Newark, number one. Number two, where do they go afterwards?
Right.
What do they do, and what impact does it have on this city as we are at a crossroads? Go ahead.
I think that we're at a really exciting tipping point on exactly that. I think that we can grow jobs in Newark. We came here with
give them the numbers. How many?
125 people. We'll have about 650 paid employees in the same headquarters, and that's one of 13 centers. But it's our global center. We're going to continue to grow here. But it is true that it's a little disappointing now with the numbers of who want to live in Newark and stay after hours and the like. But that's going to change. We have 2,000 or 3,000 apartments and lofts coming up in this city. I'm hoping that my employees are in a lot of them, as well as artists and writers who are coming in from other places and discovering Newark. If there were another 10 Audibles in this city, the job growth situation would be entirely different.
What would it take for that to happen?
Well, I think the main thing is to start to realize that if you're not tethered to the technology characteristics of the economy, you're not going to be tethered to the job growth economy. That basically that's where the jobs are being created. We were acquired by Amazon.com when they had 19,000 employees in 2008. They have 130,000 employees now. So there are growth sectors of the economy, but you have to be smart about the positioning of this city to connect to that kind of job growth. And there's things in the manufacturing sector like 3D printing. There's ways to train people out of school into those jobs. We just have to connect to these new and exciting best practices in other cities. And I think part of the problem is that economic development in the East Coast, and particularly in the New York area, is just about putting buildings up. So many fortunes, so many infrastructure wins have happened from just putting the building up, but it's not good enough anymore. We have to have growth within the buildings. And then the tax base goes up, there's money for social services, and what also happens with that kind of job growth, if you look at Brooklyn as the paradigm of new growth, is that people start putting up great coffee shops and new kinds of bars and hipster shops and the like, and it starts to bloom a service economy so that people who aren't going to be highly technical get jobs too. There's a wonderful new ecosystem, but it involves investing in the headwaters of growth, not what's happened in Newark for 70 years, as you know very well, investment in the outcomes of economic deprivation, which is nonprofit investment.
Yeah, but there's another part of this. And I'm not saying this because you're a friend and you've been with us before, but it also takes CEOs who have a commitment to something beyond the bottom line, which is hard enough to have a commitment to. But in so many conversations we've had, Don, you bring up education immediately. On the other half of this program we'll be speaking to Father Edwin Leahy, the headmaster of St. Benedict's Prep, a pretty darn good school.
Great school.
Right? You bring up education. You're committed to a particular charter school in the city by the name of?
Well, North Star. I've actually been on the board of Uncommon Schools since it started over 17 years ago across Washington Park.
Okay. The reason I bring this up,
Right.
you talk about we need another X number of audibles here. But the truth is, isn't it also a fact that you need a certain number of obsessed CEOs like Don Katz and others who are committed not just to the bottom line in economic development in the city, but being involved in the fabric of the city in ways that do not bring in dollars to the bottom line directly, but are committed to kids and social justice and education. And I'm not trying to be negative because I'm bullish on the city, but
Yeah. I think
who are these people?
I think that there are a lot of people, and some of the young companies are being made by 26-year-olds, not people my age. And I think in that group, I don't know what it is, 20 or 30% actually have a passion for social change.
In cities.
And I think they will get that it's incredibly cool to be part of a turnaround of an American city. If you look at what's going on in Detroit, you look at what's going on in Las Vegas, you look at what's going on in New Orleans, there is a flight of people, particularly college graduates, back into those environments to be part of urban amelioration.
But you could see them in Newark and not wanting to be in Brooklyn because Brooklyn is hotter on the surface.
I think it
and Newark
provides
has
us a
certain challenges.
competitive template. My CEO is a competitor type who says that's what we need to reverse engineer. The companies that are being made right now and the people who are filling up, artist lofts and starting cool shops are sometimes 45 and 50 minutes from Manhattan now. We're only 19.
We have that advantage.
We have a huge advantage. We're just not perceptually in that orbit, but we can be with the right, with the right investment, with the right funding, with the right characteristics. I mean, I got a call the other day from a very accomplished entrepreneur. He's got $30 million in funds. He's only got 8 people. He's incubating in New York. He lives in Short Hills. He wants to come to Newark like us. Now,
He lives 7-8 miles away,
Right.
maybe 10 from Newark.
Exactly.
Wants to be in Newark.
And so-
What would it take for him to come here?
Well, I think what it's going to take is to put him into a cool space where he can see scaling fairly quickly to 20 and then 30 and then 70 people, like we did. This is what happens when these things take off. And so of course the Haynes building is being completely rehabbed. There's other landlords in town who are putting high bandwidth infrastructure into their buildings. There's other places they can go. And I think the first thing you needed to hear was that we have an incredibly rich culture based around Newark. And we live and play here. We have teams that play on every field in the city, sports teams. We have primo tickets to all the events. We've tried to embed...
You're wiring Military Park?
In Military Park
do
is
that real
coming
quick,
out
30
with
seconds
this,
on that?
Yeah, there's going to be a very, very big Wi-Fi network here that's part of the fact that one of the great gifts of Newark is that the fiber underneath the streets here, because of the telecom history and the geographical location, allows super high bandwidth access, which you wouldn't get in another city or which would cost much more. So we're working on that.
Want to make the park a, quote, cooler place to be?
Well, the park is already going to be, it's cool. It's really a cool place to be. But I think when the Haynes building is done and that's up, when the Prue Center's done, when we're building out a whole new floor, we're going to be out of space again in February. We're growing. Rutgers is there. I just think there's a wonderful paradigm for us to look at where if we cluster social street level amenities, if we get younger people in with different kinds of jobs, as the service level economy comes up, I'd love to see a next generation manufacturing environment in our warehouses and spaces like that. It starts to create a virtuous circle, and people want to live here, they want to be here. It's a tipping mechanism, but it has to, what you can't do, and I think a lot of these CEO types you're talking about are in a world of new companies that want to be activists in a community, want companies with hearts and souls, and they probably aren't going to think that giving to the United Way is a socially progressive thing to do, since that's what everybody else is doing.
And by the way, the other piece of this with the corporations and those CEOs, the academic piece is huge because Joel Bloom, the president here at NJIT, started out the conversation by talking about Newark as a college town. You got NJIT, you got Seton Hall Law School, you got Rutgers, you got Berkeley, you've got all kinds of interesting, right?
Yeah.
That's a part of it.
I think when you have that epicenter of innovation as well as fun, you're going to capture the college students and the kids from the suburban ring. Look at Manayunk in Philadelphia, like a dead-in-the-water working-class district that now is a fun magnet for people through the entirety of the city of Philly and kids on a date from the suburbs. I mean, other than
And it wasn't happening,
Right.
I'm sorry for interrupting, that wasn't some hot place.
Right.
Put it
No.
in perspective.
It was literally a ghost town. And this stuff can happen, but you have to, it can't be one restaurant here and one, 6 blocks away. It has to be, clustered, and it has to be a magnet. But I gave the commencement speech at Rutgers. The whole Prue Center was filled, and I'm looking at this. It's the most diverse campus in the country, and I'm thinking, it's literally like 15% Hindu, 15% Muslim, 50% Jewish. It was the most rainbow, vista you've ever seen. But I looked out and thought, this is filled with the kinds of entrepreneurs who will leave this city and go create wealth in other places. And simply by putting the stake down and saying, we're open for business as a tech center, we're open for business as a new manufacturing center, that will cause a different reaction. Because right now, there's not enough places to live for the students, so we have a different kind the University of Pennsylvania, for instance, has all of their staff living within, a few blocks. So we'll get there, but I'm just thinking that, when Whole Foods goes into the Haynes building, and hopefully a lot of great new bars and restaurants are part of that, as well as Military Park's great new food outlets, then the college students will come, my employees will come, new employees will come, and it'll work. I just think that we've got to get past this idea that throwing a building up, often at the taxpayers, on their nickel, is probably not enough. And it's got to be what's in the building, and it's got to be about revenue growth, because that's how you get a tax base, and job growth, and that's your success measures.
That's why we said Newark is clearly at a crossroads, and Don, we're glad you're right there, helping making it happen every day. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're doing a great job too, Steve.
Well, we're looking forward to many more conversations, because this is an ongoing story. Thanks, Don.
Thank you.
Audible.com.
Great.
Good stuff. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Stay right there. Don't run.
Okay.
You're going to want to hang around, because Father Edwin Leahy's coming on after
All right,
this. We're at NJIT. Stay with us right after this. Thanks, buddy.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato at NJIT has been provided by New Jersey Institute of Technology, Prudential Financial's Global Communications Department, Barnabas Health, TD Bank, Josh S. Weston, the Fidelco Group, and by PSE&G. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.